How have you been, sir?
Good, very good. How are you, Likita?
Thank you, sir. I'm good. Sir, it's a really great opportunity for me to interview you, sir. First question is like regarding your family experience that your family has been from Bhimbaram. So we wanted to know your experience with your family from initial stage to up to now.
Okay. So basically, my father is a doctor, and he was in UK for 13 years. And I was brought up by my grandfather, the founder chairman of this college.
Yes.
So I was in the UK for 2 years, and then came back. And right from my early days, from nursery education onwards, I was put in a hostel in UT. So right from 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, I was in UT. 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th in Delhi. 10th and my intermediate was in Hyderabad. And then I went for my engineering to Trichy, REC Trichy. I did chemical engineering.
Yes.
After that, I went to the US and did my master's in chemical engineering. I went to a university called Michigan Tech. Yeah. And then after that, I worked in a company called DuPont. So I used to work in the R&D department, and I was there till 91. And then I came back. So family basically, right now, I'm a grandfather. Okay, I have got 2 grandchildren, 2 sons, 1 grandson, 1 granddaughter recently. So I think that's about my family.
It was good, sir. Sir, and you know that inspiration drives a person from apathy to possibilities. Having an inspiration in life can lead us to face any challenges. So, in your life, who is your mentor or inspiration? Would you narrate any experience with him or her?
Yeah. So basically, as I mentioned, my parents shifted to UK. I was there for 2 years. I came back. So my grandparents brought me up.
Okay.
So throughout till I was married also.
Yeah.
So my inspiration is my grandfather, the founder of this college, Dr. BVRIT. And the way he lived his life, the way he came up the hard way, and the way he created so many industries, helped so many people, and later on got into the education field. I think probably I look up towards no one else.
Yeah.
Right in my house I have it, and my grandmother, because she brought me up. So I can narrate one example why I became a chemical engineer. When I was in my 7th class, I think I was struggling in chemistry.
Yeah.
So stoichiometry, where balancing equations was a big problem for me.
Yeah.
So one evening, I asked him, and at that time he was the chairman and managing director of the Cement Corporation of India. Okay. So one evening after dinner, I told him I'm studying here, and he probably spent 3 hours that night teaching me how to balance equations.
Psychometry.
Psychometry, I still remember the 2882 and all that, no?
Yeah.
All those things, so those fundamentals I was not very clear.
Okay.
And even now I'm not very strong in organic chemistry, but whatever little I learned from him.
Yes.
And then from a very early age, he used to take me to industries right from my 7th, 8th, 9th class. So by the time I joined engineering, I had already visited a lot of heavy industry, whether it was cement or paper or sugar. Various industries I used to go with him. So more or less subjects like unit operations, your transport phenomena, heat transfer, mass transfer, I could relate to it.
Yeah, yes sir.
Okay, I've seen this, I've seen the crushing equipment, I've seen a filter press, I've seen a heat exchanger, I've seen a distillation column. And I think that actually made life easy for me. So he's the greatest inspiration for me.
That's such an inspiring story, sir. So we all know that you are a chemical engineering student. So how was your journey being a chemical engineering student back then?
So those days, as I mentioned, I got into REC Trichy, and your vice chairman got into REC Trichy 1 year before me. The system those days was that you get admission there.
Yeah.
And then based on your first year marks, because first year is common for all the students,
yes,
all the branches. And then based on your marks, you can select your branch.
Yeah.
So the branch which was in demand at that point of time, the number 1 branch was mechanical, and then electronics. Chemical was at the bottom. Okay, but I had made up my mind that because I grew up with my grandfather, I said if I get chemical, I'll be happy. So I didn't have to work very hard in the first year, so I didn't get great marks. So I joined chemical. And chemical, maybe one thing which stood out in REC was, I think chemical was the only program which offered a BTech degree. Am I right, Ravi?
Yes.
All the others were BE.
Okay.
Okay. The other thing was that the chemical engineering block had a separate identity. It was on one side of the campus. A separate building was built,
Okay.
labs and all that. And also a very eminent Professor Ibrahim was our head of the department. We had very nice labs, good faculty. So it was a good experience.
Sir, today, as today, chemical engineering students need to interact with other branch students also. So, what suggestions would you give for the chemical engineering students in order to interact with the students of another departments?
So today's chemical engineer is expected to know, of course, fundamental chemical engineering subjects. He or she has to have a grip on fundamentals like thermodynamics, heat transfer, mass transfer, unit operations, and all these things. Strong mathematics is required. But what is happening is that you also need to know a lot of subjects like electronics, artificial intelligence, instrumentation. So these are things which are very much required if you want to become a successful chemical engineer. And I'll give you a small example. Those days when I graduated, let us take an industry like cement. We used to have something called a distributed control system to operate the film, which was something very new those days.
Okay.
In the 70s, it was all analog. To change the pressure or to change the temperature or to open a valve or something, everything was done mechanically. Then it became a distributed control system. Now it's fuzzy logic everywhere. Now means I'm talking even at probably early 2000s.
Yes.
Now, in this age of data, even traditional industry like cement actually relies a lot on data. So they have people who are doing a lot of things on, data analytics. Historic data they're taking. For example, if you take the historic data of your equipment, let's say the heart of the industry is a kiln.
Yes.
You can predict in future when the maintenance has to be taken, when a likely hotspot will come there. So today I think that also has been added to a traditional chemical engineer's scope.
Yes.
So the whole thing is you need to be open, and most importantly for a chemical engineer you also need to be good in finance and costing.
Costing, yeah.
Because ultimately, let us take the pharma industry. If you want to scale up a process,
yes, sir.
Because as you know, typically everything is done mainly on a bench scale or a lab scale, and then pilot plant, and then it's scaled up. So that's when economics comes into play, because you have to produce that product at a reasonable cost. So that techno-commercial aspects, I think, for a chemical engineer is extremely important.
Yes. Sir, as you know that after pursuing their education in chemical engineering, today many students are choosing their career path in software sectors. What is your opinion based on that?
Yeah, probably because today opportunities are many in the software side. When we graduated, the industry software itself was not there.
Yes, sir.
Okay, those days it was a mainframe computer and very small number of students used to go and do the programming. Today, yes, definitely it is there, but I see that change again coming back to the older days, because you have now, for example, take Hyderabad city itself.
Yes.
A new initiative is coming up called a Flow Chemistry Innovation Center.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, what is that? Though it is directed towards the pharmaceutical industry, they require a lot of chemical engineers. Because, to put it in simple language, whatever was being done in a batch process, the pharma industry wants to convert that into a continuous process. Yeah. And there are a lot of challenges.
Yes.
Because it's not that easy to convert from batch to continuous. One, quality issues, yield issues, safety issues.
Yes, sir.
So with all this, the role of a chemical engineer is going to be very, very important. But having said that, some students basically, maybe they think that getting into an IT job, maybe it's more comfortable than going into an industry or an R&D. But what I've heard from many students is they're burning out after some time. Maybe after 6-7 years, they're getting bored and sitting in that office.
Yes.
Okay, so I would suggest to keep the options open. IT is anyway there.
Yeah.
But definitely, I think India requires more and more chemical engineers. The world requires more and more chemical engineers. And it's not only pharma. You look at the way food industry is growing in this country today,
yes,
worldwide. In fact, the latest trend today abroad is to go for plant-based meat. That is the in thing today.
Okay.
Even in a country like US or Europe, If you go to a McDonald's or a Burger King, which was all hardcore non-vegetarian,
Yes, sir.
today alternatives have come. The same product, look, feel, taste, flavor, everything they are simulating using non-meat.
Yes, sir.
There also chemical engineers are required.
Required. Yes, sir.
Lot of chemical engineers are required. So, of course, traditional industries are there: oil, natural gas, fertilizer, all these require. So, I think automobile industry also requires chemical engineers.
Chemical engineers. Yes.
Now you have these catalytic converters, a lot of pollution control norms. So, I think the scope of a chemical engineer is probably the widest. Okay. But having said that, I think he should or she should have that hunger to learn other fields also.
Also.
Because
Yeah.
you never know when that will be applicable.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
True. It's so informative, sir. I hope they will choose the same path. Sir, technology has become inseparable from engineering today. So, what are the new technologies that a chemical engineering students should have hands-on experience with?
You're talking about core chemical engineering or general technology?
Core chemical engineering students should have hands-on experience with.
See, the core chemical engineering anyway is the same thing.
Yeah.
In fact, I think all of you are following the same textbooks I followed.
Yeah.
I'm sure you're following Trebol,
Yes, sir. Yes,
you're
we are
following
following.
Vaness and Smith.
Yes.
So that remains as it is. The fundamentals remain as it is. Now, probably what students have to understand is these buzzwords today, like IoT, machine learning, AI.
AI.
It's a misconception. It is connected only to computer science. Now, the applications are in all fields.
All fields. Yeah.
So, a chemical engineer also needs to have access to that.
Yes.
Huge, data is available today. Earlier, people didn't know how to use that data, or how to capture that data, or how to analyze that data in a process industry or any of the areas where, or prediction of an oil well, where to go and drill for gas. So earlier, they didn't have all those techniques. Now with these new techniques, chemical engineers also can do all those things.
Yes, sir.
So that is something which I think it has to be done.
Yes.
Yeah.
And as today, common people are having a opinion that chemistry is equal to chemical engineering.
Yeah.
As we all know that even students who are joining chemical engineering have an opinion that since we know the chemistry subject, it is better to take chemical engineering. They
Right.
have an opinion that if you know the chemistry, if you have knowledge on chemistry, chemical engineering will be easy. What's your opinion on that, sir?
Yeah, that's again a misconception actually.
Yeah.
It's I think more of mathematics. My understanding is your strength should be you should be very strong in calculus,
Yeah.
partial differential equations,
Yes.
and maybe the difference between other branches and chemical engineering is some amount of organic chemistry is there in most of the courses, because a chemical engineer works where ultimately you'll have to look at that area also, no?
Yes.
So pharma industry, that's where the employment is huge.
Huge.
You look at the cosmetic industry. So that's where compared to say a mechanical engineering student or electronic student, you have few chemistry courses.
Yes.
But having said that, I think maths is very, very important.
Yes.
That is my understanding after doing chemical
Engineering. Yes. It was a good answer. Sir, you have been into research after completing your master's in Michigan University in the topics of polymers. And what is your opinion? Should the students be given research foundation start from their bachelor's of technology?
100%, I think that should be done.
Okay.
See, what should be done is when faculty do projects, when they're writing a research paper, it takes a couple of years or 3 years to do a good publication. And it will be a long-term project.
Yes, sir.
So one suggestion is faculty can engage undergraduate students during that time to do a small component.
Yes.
It can be a very simple thing like doing a literature search,
Yes.
or collecting data. It can be a small component of a larger project.
Yes.
The only thing is that students should be made aware that this is your role and ultimately you are going to be part of a bigger project. But since you are going to graduate, the next student will come and take it up. Okay? If that is done, then what happens is for the undergraduate student, what you are reading in your textbooks, what you are doing in the lab, you will also see a connect with research and connect with which way the world is moving to. You will also establish networking. Okay? Then most important thing is you will start thinking independently. There is no more JNT syllabus there is no old question papers.
Yeah.
So you are going to think differently.
Yes.
So I 100% support the view that students should take up a small project when someone is doing research. And it can be within our college, or you could even work with a scientist while you're doing your undergraduate. In fact, in the US, they call that a co-op program.
Okay.
Okay. One is internship.
Yes.
Internship, you go for a very short time during summer holidays and come. But there is something called a co-op where you can shift for entire semester to that lab, or you can shift to that industry. They give you a problem, you work on that, and you get credit for that also.
Okay.
Yeah. So unfortunately, I don't think in India we have that system of going away for a semester for a co-op.
Yes.
But at least while studying here, the students can take it up.
Yes. Right. It was informative. So, what suggestion would like to give to the students of chemical engineering who are pursuing their research-oriented work?
So, if they are interested in going for higher education, 100% I think they should go ahead. In fact, I would like to give the example of your own senior, Kirti.
Yes, sir.
So, in fact, I spoke to her last month. She is in Columbia University.
Yes, sir.
And I think I was more excited than her when I came to know that she got into Columbia University. Okay? And that too in chemical engineering. And as you know, we supported her.
Yes.
And her dream is to do a PhD. But I think they initially said we'll give you admission in masters, and later on we'll see. But I'm quite sure that she'll continue to do a PhD there.
Yes.
Now, in the US, there's a huge requirement for doctorates in chemical engineering. Huge requirement. The best part is, if they want to settle down in the US also, there is a separate quota for them. They don't have to wait in line for like the rest of others.
Yes.
Okay. And till recently, chemical engineering graduates used to get the highest salary packages also. I don't know, I'm not aware of the last few years. But research is something which definitely, I think if that mindset is there for a student, I would definitely encourage doing it.
Yes. Thank you, sir. Sir, in the continuation of this research topic, what are the new themes or new topics that you would suggest for a student to work on?
You're talking about technical stuff?
Yes, sir.
I may not be the best judge of that, but I don't know. But of course, within chemical engineering, again, you have bioengineering, you have so multiple areas are there.
Yes, sir.
So I really can't pinpoint this is the best area. Or see, even if you take the semiconductor industry, okay, a lot of people don't know that the chips which we are using in a mobiles, there's a huge role of a chemical engineer there. Even in chip fabrication, they use a lot of chemical things like whether it is thin film technology or whether it is chemical vapor deposition. A lot of chemical engineers are employed by Intel.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
A lot of chemical engineers are employed by AMD Corporation. But people don't know that.
Yes.
Okay. So chip technology also is evolving because what's happening, your devices are becoming smaller and smaller. So the role of a chemical mechanical engineer is very big there because you need to increase the computing power and bring down the size.
Size down.
So anything which starts utilizing power generates heat.
Heat, yes, sir.
So how do you get the heat out? So that's something which a chemical engineer can work on. So any field you look at, for example, you look at automobile industry. The biggest challenge today is when we talk about BVRIT 6, Euro emissions and all that. The whole thing is these diesel vehicles or petrol vehicles are polluting the environment.
Yes.
So if you see in your vehicle, you have a catalytic converter now.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now that's a role of a chemical engineer there. How to reduce emissions, how to design better exhaust systems, how to design better filters there, things like that. So any field you look at it, I think potential is there. It depends on your interest.
Interest on the topic. Sir, you have been the managing director of Anjani Portland Cement Limited. So as a leader, what was your biggest challenges as being a leader?
Any organization, I think today, my personal view, the topmost priority is the man management or the HR part of it.
Yes.
I think that's where the issues are.
Yes.
So technology is available, money can come, land can come, factories can come. The biggest challenge what we are seeing, whether it is colleges, whether it is industry, is the human aspect. How motivated is that team?
Yes.
And I think most of the time we are spending only on that.
Correct. So, what do you think are some of the important attributes that makes a modern day engineer?
Engineer first, I think, should be very curious and should have that hunger to keep on learning.
Yes, sir.
Because it's a work in progress. You can never say that you completed being an engineer.
Yes.
And I think the other thing is a lot of lateral thinking can be applied. See, what you learnt in one field can also be applied in totally different field. And it might work, it may not work.
Yes.
So I think that logical thinking capacity, being analytical, I think these are the traits which I think will really help the person who does an engineering degree.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Sir, how has the pandemic changed your outlook on the society?
Yeah, so pandemic, like everyone, we also got affected. We
Yes.
went into isolation.
Yes, yes.
So I think it's a check for all of us because I lost some of my good friends during the pandemic, and then I think it's a reality check for us.
Yes, sir.
I think the way we behave with people, I think we should become more tolerant to each other because what the pandemic has shown is rich or poor, staying in US or in India,
Everything is
in a second you can just get out from here.
Yeah.
So I think that should have, and during the pandemic we have seen how people helped each other also.
Yes.
There were cases where people were left to fend for themselves, especially the migrant labor now we saw. But there are also cases where total strangers helped people. So I think humanity also came out.
Yeah.
And my biggest lesson would be that don't take things for granted, anything can happen.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
So be humble, and I think you should try not to fight with people. Don't be too greedy. These are some of the things I can tell you.
Yes, sir. Sir, what is your advice to the students on how to be prepared professionally for the pandemic-like situations? As we know that the colleges and everything got shut down and the online-based education has started. So what will
So you're specifically talking about something like a pandemic?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I think first thing is we should realize we are in the same boat like everyone else in the world. It is not, we are the only people who are suffering. Everyone is suffering. Now, having said that, we should now learn how to keep ourselves busy.
Yes.
Okay. And how to do things without people around. So those things definitely help. Like maybe start reading, maybe do meditation, and then keep yourself positive. I think that's the only thing you can do.
Yes.
And try to spend time on things which you like. Reading a book, watching movies, gardening, cooking, whatever it is. If you do that, then the time will go. See, ultimately what happens is, one, you're not interacting with your friends.
Yes.
Okay? You're not able to move outside the house. So you're sitting in those four walls. So that's when the frustration comes in.
Yes, sir.
So obviously with those like chemical engineer,
Yes, sir.
boundary conditions already set.
Yeah.
So in that boundary condition, how do you maximize it? So maybe do a gardening in your house or start cooking. I did a lot of cooking actually. During, YouTube is there now.
Yes, sir.
So some things failed, some things succeeded. So have fun. What else can we do?
Whatever we do, we learn.
Just learn it.
Yes, sir. So what approach would you suggest to the students that they can focus towards the better learning?
Better learning during online, or is it general?
General, sir. It's online or offline. What will be your suggestions for the
So
students for
my
better
suggestion would be to see what's happening today. Reading habit has come down.
Yes.
What I could see compared to my time when I was a student.
Yes.
I very rarely see students referring textbooks, leave alone reference books.
Yes, sir.
And I don't know how many of our students have a total set of chemical engineering books. I still have my set with me.
Yeah.
Right from Perry's Handbook
Yes.
to Van and Smith, Trebol, Bird Stewart Lightfoot, all those books I still have.
Okay.
And all my classmates also had those books. And I remember those days, we used to also buy books of different authors.
Yes.
And we used to exchange. Of course, maybe we didn't have computers those days, we didn't have a Google or Yahoo. Maybe there was another option.
Yes.
And I think students should also try to read more and more beyond their textbooks. Only if that is done, they will know the big picture.
Yes.
Otherwise, if you're just studying for the sake of studying for the examinations, I don't think that's a good idea. And maybe students, especially in chemical engineering, should visit industries, should visit CSIR labs. And Hyderabad is the best location for that.
For that, yes.
They'll be very happy to call you there. So, on a Sunday, if you want to go and visit a pharma company, or you try to fix up, I want to go and see ISCT, I want to see how leading scientists' lab is,
yes.
Or I want to go to NIN, National Institute of Nutrition. That what will happen is somewhere you will see some connect between what you are learning in class
and practical
and what is happening in the real world.
Yes, sir.
that happened to me. But of course, I didn't plan it. Thanks to my grandfather, I was going along with him. So I could connect those things.
Yes,
And that's extremely important. And today people are not able to connect.
Yes, sir.
And everything they will say it's out of syllabus. So in the real world, there is no syllabus, no?
Yes.
Everything is suddenly, everything is like, it can be suddenly overwhelming.
Yes, sir.
So try to do that connect. I think that's the only way to learn.
Yes, sir. Sir, would you tell us more about the recently inaugurated Vishnu Space Engineering Center, and what are the future aspects for budding chemical engineering students to work on the projects in this space lab?
Yeah, so that's a very good question. In fact, the whole idea came about when Dr. Pasha was there, because now he's on a sabbatical, DC, HOD, he's gone to US.
Yes.
So there's this company called Dhruva Space Sciences.
Yes,
it's a young company headed by a young team, and their aim was, these are all like-minded students, very young students. Okay?
Yes, sir.
They want to actually launch a satellite with a mini payload.
Okay.
And they will take the support of ISRO.
Yes, sir.
Because without ISRO support, you can't.
We cannot launch a rocket.
And they wanted to actually interact with institutions where faculty and students can also take part.
Yes.
So, fortunately, I knew one of the founders, and so we casually met. And I said, definitely, we would be interested. Fortunately, by that time, I think we had a ham radio club here.
Yes, sir.
Because one of the prerequisites he said is, if your students and faculty are members of a ham radio and they know how to operate, that will be very useful in this space technology. I don't know if you've seen the center here.
Yes,
We have probably the first time in Telangana, Andhra, that a chamber, a specific chamber, I think it's called an anechoic chamber.
Okay.
Totally soundproof. Okay?
Yes.
In fact, they use such type of chambers for high-level music recording and all that.
Okay.
So, it's connected to antenna engineering as a EC subject.
Yes.
And our students are fortunate that they're able to see all that here.
Yes, sir.
So the whole idea is some of our faculty and students will work with Dhruva, and maybe 2023-24, BVRIT will come out with a small mini satellite.
Satellite, yes, sir.
Now when that satellite is fabricated, obviously we require mechanical engineers, maybe some chemical engineers. Because you're looking at the fuel.
Yes, sir.
Okay, you're looking at the fabrication. You require electronics engineers and obviously computer science people, because a lot of data will be generated.
Yes, sir.
So yeah, I think you should go and have a look at. I don't know if your HOD or anyone has taken you there.
Yes.
And look at those possibilities.
Yes.
Definitely you can work on it.
So in general, there has been raising mental issues faced by the students these days, mainly in this generation. What measures would you suggest for a student to face their mental issues? It can be stress or depression.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a very good question, because I think today there are a lot of factors which are influencing a student's depression.
Yes, sir.
Social media, access to mobile. So the more information you have, more data you have, chances of getting affected also is there. Now,
Yes.
when we were growing up, we didn't have access to all that. So we didn't know what was happening. So the less you know, sometimes it's good for your brain.
Yes.
Here, everything we know. And I think today relationships also are something which maybe it's through Facebook, maybe it is through Instagram. I don't know. Earlier, that is not, they were all solid relationships.
Yes, yes.
And if you are a friend with someone on Facebook and she doesn't reply, you get hurt.
Yes.
If you don't get the likes, you get hurt. So all these types of unnecessary things are taking place. My suggestion is, don't rely too much on social media. Suppose you have 1,000 or 2,000 friends, are they your genuine friends on social media? But then, having said that, I can't blame any one of you, because my own kids are also on social media, your age only.
Yes,
so you go with the flow,
yes.
But try to minimize that. Okay. The second thing is, don't take things seriously. That is not only in your generation, even in my generation, there are a lot of people who panic for everything,
yes,
who
sir.
think too deeply. Don't think too deeply at all. It's not worth it.
Yes.
Take things lightly. Be serious on the important things, not on everything.
Yes, sir.
So then what happens? All this piles up. Okay. Make good friends. Have good habits. You know what I do in the night before I sleep? I put on AirPods.
Okay.
Either I listen to nice instrument music, or I watch some comedy scenes.
Comics.
Brahmanandam scenes. Those scenes I put for half an hour, I'll laugh to myself. And in fact, recently I watched a Malayalam movie. I don't know Malayalam, but thanks to OTT, now we are watching that.
Yes.
There was one movie, randomly I selected it. It was a 2-hour length movie. I must have laughed for 1 hour. First time I was laughing aloud. After someone was sitting with me.
Yes.
That actually de-stresses you actually. And that is what is lacking today. Everyone is serious. Not worth it.
Yes, sir.
And your age you can play games. See, morning, I stayed here last night.
Yes.
So in fact, morning, Viper principal said, we're going to come and play shuttle.
Yes.
So I said, it's been ages since I even held a racket.
Racket, yeah.
But we went and played for some time and I felt very nice actually.
Yes.
And morning, all of us, your principal, vice chairman, Dr. Shiva,
Yes.
I think at about 6 we took a nice walk in the campus.
Yeah.
Then I said, I'm really jealous of you guys sitting in such a nice place. See, in Hyderabad, it's a concrete jungle, no?
Yeah.
Even in an expensive area like Jubilee Hills, people take their cars and go to KVR Park. This is much better than KVR Park actually.
Yeah.
More number
True,
of trees.
sir. Yes, sir.
Of course, monkeys were running around us. This is what people in the city are looking for. And I said, all of you have this here.
Yeah. True, sir.
So we have to make our own environment and de-stress ourselves. Don't think too deeply. I think that's the message I can give.
So it was great suggestion for us, sir. So and the last question is that in today's generation, students are very passionate to take computer science and engineering or information technology, and the intake of the students in core branches has been decreased, sir. So how can we bring the awareness in the upcoming students, so that they can get into chemical engineering, like in CSC and IT?
Yeah. So why is it that everyone is getting into computer sciences? Definitely it's economics, because plenty of jobs are there.
Yes, sir.
Okay, but chemical engineering, as I mentioned, has got a huge potential, and there are students who want to become a chemical engineer. But when they look at the general public, the perception, a lot of well-wishers will tell them, why you want to get into chemical? Tomorrow you may not get a job, or chemical is tough.
Yeah.
Go and join computer science, it's easy, you'll get a nice job.
Yes.
Okay. Now to change the perception, you should create excitement in your department. And in fact, I had suggested to your HOD, I think they're working on it, is that just imagine in your department you have 4 or 5 projects which students are working on, so that you build something. And one example is making a car. When I say a car, it's a miniature vehicle which runs on chemical energy.
Yes, sir.
Now, the US also has the same problem like us. They're not getting enough students into some of these branches. So there was this professor called Dr. Scott Fogler, very eminent professor from University of Michigan, Ann Arbor. 1998, he designed on behalf of American Institute of Chemical Engineers that let the students work on designing a car, a vehicle, which will run on chemical energy.
Yes.
And that has become hugely popular.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Same thing we are suggesting you take it up here.
Yes. Oh, we are working.
Yeah. And in India, I think BVRIT has started it, the
Yes.
Institute.
Yes.
So recently our people have connected with them to find out what they're doing. Now, if that happens, what will happen is you are actually seeing what you're learning in your classrooms and all your equations actually in practice there.
Yes.
That means you're actually having fun doing it in chemical engineering. The same thing we suggested to civil engineering department. There is a competition in the US called making a concrete boat, a canoe. Now the first thing is, how can you design something with concrete, it will sink.
Yes, sir.
But this is one competition where people work for 6 months, 7 months, 1 year. Ultimately it might fail. But the whole idea of designing it involves a lot of things.
Yes, sir.
It's not only civil engineering. It involves using SolidWorks. It involves using ANSYS finite element method, which you also have probably in chemical engineering. Coming out with the design. And then most importantly, the choice of materials. Because a regular concrete block, probably a kg might weigh a cubic meter might weigh 2000 kgs.
Yes, sir.
It will sink. Now, how do you bring it down to 1200, 1100, and how do you make it shape-wise so that it actually floats?
Floats on the water. Yeah.
So, beautiful competition.
Yes.
Okay. Now they're working on it. Already they made the mold.
Okay.
Now, what I told your HOD also, let the students fail. Absolutely no issues. Let the car burst. Only take all safety precautions. Ultimately, you'll get there.
Yes.
What chemicals to be used, that chemical energy getting converted to that heat. It's an exothermic reaction.
Yes, exothermic reaction.
And that you convert to electrical.
Yeah.
and I don't know, maybe 12 volts or 15 volts, what is the requirement to move those wheels.
Yes, sir.
Then the next step would be how to stop the car.
Yeah. At that point.
At that particular point.
Yes, sir.
So there are plenty of YouTube videos you can see on those competitions, and students are super excited. But that is what we need to do as an example.
Yes.
Once you do that, then the pride in the department comes.
Yes.
Today, what happens is ultimately, how do you motivate yourself? You need to feel good about your department. So these are things which will make your department, that feel good factor will come. Then the word of mouth goes. Just like chemical, biomedical you take. The state of Telangana, only 2 colleges are offering biomedical. Osmania and ours. 37, 30 students.
Yes.
Now my point is, why students are not joining? Because today industry requires biomedical engineers. There is a medical device park coming up just very close by. Just on the ORR next to, from here it's about 20 kilometers.
Okay.
They require biomedical engineers. Every corporate hospital in Hyderabad requires a biomedical engineer. But maybe awareness is not there, I don't know.
Yes.
And there are people who like biology and math.
Yes, sir.
So it's ideal for them. Am I right or not?
Yes, sir. It's unique also.
Now, one more thing which people ask me, why did you become? I don't like to sit on a desk for hours together doing programming.
Yes.
I can't see myself doing that. For me, my mentality is my computer is used only for sending emails or something like that. I used to work when I was in the US, when I was doing my job, I used to do a lot of simulations on a mainframe computer. Okay. In fact, my entire work in DuPont was using finite element methods. Okay. And those days, no laptops were there, it was a big mainframe IBM computer. I used to do a lot of scientific programming. Okay. My codes used to be 5,000, 6,000 lines codes I used to write in Fortran language.
Yes.
I never enjoyed it, to tell you very frankly. I used to only enjoy it when the product was sent to the factory. I'll go and see the factory and come. So for me, I like to walk around, see a factory. I like to see a product made. I like to see cement being made from limestone, or a ceramic tile coming from feldspar. Yeah. So those things I like.
Yes, sir.
I'm sure a lot of people like that. I can't sit for 10 hours in a AC room and sit like that. I want to walk around. I want this thing. So for those type of people, chemical is the best.
Yes, sir. So, and as we know that you have done your masters in Michigan University, USA. In India, for pursuing masters, basically in any core department or in chemical engineering, the demand for writing the exams like GATE or PG Set is more. But the supply of seats for the students has become less, and moreover, the students are opting to do their masters in foreign countries like USA or European countries like Germany, Norway, Sweden. So, what's your opinion on that, sir?
What you're saying is true, because if at all you do MPhil, you should do it in a good place.
Yes, sir.
Preferably the IITs, maximum NITs. If not, you should go abroad.
Yes.
Okay. You're right. I think there is a point there because seats are less. Competition is severe in this country, as is for any other course. So that is a problem we are all facing.
Yes,
but if someone wants to do a master's in chemical, my suggestion is to go abroad.
Okay.
Because opportunity is also a phenomenon there.
Yes,
many of them would like to work for some time.
Yes, sir.
So opportunities are many more there than here.
Yeah. And the competition is more over here.
Yes.
Compared to that of other countries.
Yeah.
So it was great talking to you, sir. Thank you for sparing your time with us.
Thank you, Likita. Thank you.